what's that hair tumbling down from the tower? And who's that there climbing up the hair? Would you like to find out? Then let's take a closer look. Once upon a time there was a husband and wife who wished they had a child. And when the wife finally became pregnant after a very long time, they were both so happy. The couple lived in a little house, and from this house you could look out over a garden where a wonderful display of flowers and herbs were growing. However, this garden was surrounded by a high wall and belonged to a powerful witch. Everyone was afraid of her, so nobody dared to go inside. One day the wife was looking out of the window and saw Rapunzel growing in the garden. She knew at once that she had to have some of that tasty treat, so she turned to her husband and said, "If I don't get to eat any of that Rapunzel, then I'm sure I will die." Because the husband loved his wife very much, he waited until it was dark. Then he sneakily climbed into the garden, gathered up the Rapunzel and brought it to his wife. She used the Rapunzel to make a salad which tasted so good that she wanted even more. So once again the husband crept back into the garden the following evening. But suddenly, standing right in front of him was the witch, who asked furiously, "How dare you step into my garden and steal my Rapunzel plants? You will have to pay for this." The man was utterly terrified and said that he had only picked the plants because his pregnant wife was in need of them. "You can take as much Rapunzel as you like, but in return you must give me the child that your wife will be having." The witch promised that she would take good care of the child, and because the husband was terrified, he agreed to the deal. When the child was born, the witch came and took it away with her. And what did she call it? Rapunzel. Rapunzel grew into a beautiful young girl. When she turned 12 years old, the witch locked her away in a tall tower. The tower could be found in a forest and had neither a staircase nor a door, only a small window right at the very top. Whenever the witch wanted to visit Rapunzel, she would stand at the bottom of the tower and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would then unfasten her braids and let her long golden hair fall all the way down to the ground, so that the witch could use it to climb up to her. One day the king's son was riding through the forest when he came across the tower. He heard Rapunzel singing beautifully and immediately fell in love with her. He wanted to go into the tower to see her, but because he couldn't find an entrance, he rode back towards home. But Rapunzel's singing had touched his heart so much that he went back to that tower every day just to listen to her voice. When he arrived at the tower one day, he saw the witch standing below the high window and shouting, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." He looked on as the witch then climbed up those long locks of hair. The king's son said to himself, "If that's the ladder you use to climb up to the top, then I'll try it for myself." And the next day he went to the tower, and he called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Down the hair fell, and up the king's son went. Rapunzel was shocked at the king's son standing before her, but when she saw that he was young, handsome and friendly, she was not afraid any more. The king's son told her that he had fallen in love with her singing, and asked her if she wanted to be his wife, to which Rapunzel replied, "Yes." Then she said, "I want to go with you, but I don't know how to get down from here. Every time you come to see me, bring a strand of silk with you. From those strands I can weave a ladder and use it to climb down to you. Then we will ride away on your horse." So that is exactly what they did, with the king's son climbing up to Rapunzel every evening, bringing her another strand of silk with each visit. But one day Rapunzel gave the plan away when she told the witch that she was much heavier than the king's son. This made the witch very angry indeed. She grabbed Rapunzel's hair and chopped it off with a pair of scissors. Then she took the girl to a deserted place where she would have to live a poor and miserable life. But for the king's son, the witch had set a trap. She fastened Rapunzel's cut-off hair to the window, and when the king's son came by that evening and called out, the witch let the hair down so that he could climb up. As the king's son laid eyes on the witch at the top of the tower, she said to him, "You want your sweetheart, but the lovely bird is sitting and singing in her nest no longer. The cat's caught her, and he'll scratch your eyes out too. You'll never see Rapunzel again." After hearing this, the king's son was so upset that he leapt from the tower and landed in a bush of thorns that pricked his eyes, which meant he couldn't see a thing. For a long time the king's son wandered blindly through the woods and was very sad because he had lost Rapunzel. After a few years, however, he came to the place where the witch had brought Rapunzel. Whilst she was in this place, Rapunzel had given birth to twins, one boy and one girl. When the king's son heard Rapunzel's voice, he walked in its direction. When Rapunzel saw him, she wrapped her arms around him and cried tears of happiness. 2 of those tears trickled into his eyes, and can you believe it? He could see again. The king's son took Rapunzel back to his kingdom, where everyone was full of happiness that he had returned, and in this kingdom Rapunzel and the king's son lived happily ever after. Now you know the story of Rapunzel. But did you also find our little elf?